Hello, 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 and welcome to Barely Hoops, BallinEurope's podcast that is kind of about basketball, I guess. Of course, about basketball and other things in general. This is our first episode, which is kind of wild. Uh, so, welcome to the show. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Emmet Ryan. I am a person who's been running Ball in Europe for quite a long time, and I have been very fortunate that the person I've convinced to be the first guest on the show is fits the bill perfectly because they're not from Europe, but definitely have interest in European basketball. One European basketball player, especially. They're known as Lev to their friends or Lisco 2000 to most of you on the internet. Lev, welcome to Barely Hoops.
Hi. Yay. Happy to be
Fantastic.
here.
Lovely, lovely to see you. It's like, and so like obviously a lot of people know you about one thing and one thing in particular, and that is the homie Dario Šarić. I'm going to be asking you about obviously the Dario thing and all that. But
Yeah.
first of all, obviously, in terms of the safe side of things, people actually want to know who this person is and how to even get into it. So, like, tell us a bit about you and like how you sort of fell into basketball fandom as a whole thing.
Yeah. Cool. Hi, I'm Lev. Well, you already introduced me. I don't know why I started with that, but I got into basketball when I was in high school. So I was around like 16 years old, 15 or 16, watching the Sixers with like my parents because they have this thing on their TV where at like whenever a Sixers game is scheduled, it automatically goes to like whatever channel is playing the Sixers, which is crazy because they're not even sickos like that. Like they are not even like they like basketball, but they're not sickos. So I don't know why I did that, but I'd just be like chilling in my house and like the Sixers would come on. I'd be like, this is kind of interesting. And I've kind of always been in like fandom spaces and stuff. So the way I kind of put it is I was really I didn't really like sports very much because I never saw people like me like engaging with it. I didn't see a lot of women, I didn't see a lot of queer people. Um, and I kind of just thought it was a space for like jocks and like people who would bully me at school or whatever. But then I started thinking about it and I was like a basketball team is kind of the same as a band. It's like kind of the same thing. It's a bunch of guys doing a thing together. And I was like, I just kind of used my brain. I was like, wait, okay, I can get into this. This is something for me. Um, and of course, like I did it in kind of my own way. I mean, as everyone on the internet knows. But it really just took me watching Sixers games and going, wait, I can enjoy this. So that's kind of how I got into basketball.
The automatic switch thing reminds you of parents' house,
Mhm.
where like there'd be like the odd, we're talking like the most mid of
Mhm.
comedies or dramas
Yeah.
on, and because they didn't know how things were set, like the reminder for it once and every time. Come on, Genetic Boom was on, and it'd be switch over to that. So, and my parents
Yeah.
substantially older than yours. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, like, because I've got 20 odd years in you, so I'm going to hazard a guess my folks are a bit older than those parents here. So if it happened to them, yeah, it happened to you. But so it's one of the things is sort of not
Mhm.
just that you became a basketball fan, like there became and it sort of made you. Not made you, but it made you well known to a lot of us, like in this side of of the Atlantic. Huge Dario fan, like I would remember Dario back when he played in Europe and went over to the US, and I
Yes.
ended up being fortunate. I became buddies with a guy who now works for the Nets, but was then with the Sixers. Well, a couple of
Mhm.
people actually who were then Sixers. Like met one of them at Eurobasket, I think it was. And we all had great crack, great times. And like, oh yeah, Dario's playing with us. Oh yeah, that's lovely. Yeah, good old Dario. Like, we all looked for a lot of him. And but like obviously lots of things happened with him. When did you discover Dario, and how did he become a thing for you?
So it's kind of interesting because I kind of first found out about him when I was watching the Sixers at my parents' house. Because he was on that team. I'm sorry, my cat is no, he's fine. Sorry, he's like climbing in my closet over there. Sometimes he goes, hold on. I'm actually just gonna go get him.
This is the best part about audio. Like, it's like Lev's just here fixing the cat up while we're recording. This is amazing.
Sorry. Sorry
Oh my
about
God.
that.
Oh
Oh,
no, incredible, incredible. You all can't see, but I am getting a special guest right now. Of what is our what is Lisco 2000's cat known as?
yes, he's Tango.
Tango. Hi to
He's
Tango.
orange and I love him. But anyway, let me get back to the story now that my cat is not destroying the closet that I just organized. Um, but yeah, so I kind of first found out about Dario when he was on that like process Sixers team and I really, really liked him. but it didn't become a special interest until like 2 years later.
Okay.
Um, and I think he was playing on the Suns by that point. But I don't know. I just randomly, it just kind of randomly happened. Like it was, he was always a player that I followed, like even after he got traded or whatever. Um, but then it just kind of happened. I'm like, oh, this is like my guy. This is my favorite player. And it happened right before COVID too, like the last game before the league got shut down. It
Wow.
was, I think he dropped, well, it was two games actually. And they were both against the Trailblazers, and he dropped 24 points in each game. And it was like literally back to back where he just did the same thing twice. Um, and I was like, I like this guy. This is the guy. Um, and that's kind of just what started it all. I don't really know why. I mean, I had an NBA Twitter account already, but then it kind of became a whole thing. And then people were like, really, the way I became the Dario Šarić girl was just by posting a lot and then having people react to it and be like, why is she a fan of this guy? And then, that's kind of like, I don't know how to put it. I think I explained it to somebody pretty recently who was like, how do you deal with like people just being like insane about you all the time? And I was like, it's free press. Like
This is the
I
thing. It's
just,
like no,
yeah,
not a lot happens, in terms of sort of music to me, but when anything's even
yeah,
hinted at, like
yeah.
all socials basically go, "What are you saying?" And it's kind of funny, like to me, like sort of,
Yeah.
I love it, just to be clear. But
Mhm.
it's like you're like sort of the spokesperson for Dario fandom,
Yeah.
basically, as well as obviously being Dario fan.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And it's funny because he's aware of it. Like he knows about it. And like I'm very careful about like not overstepping any boundaries or anything, but like he's fine with it. And I do think it's really funny that like I'm his unofficial like PR person, which is ridiculous. So it's so fun.
But I think that's one of the things that people like about you on the internet is that you're like a super fan who doesn't step and knows not to.
Yeah.
Like, because, there's immediately the fear of, you never can remotely close to that line, which is very
Yeah.
hard to do, like, just to be clear, as we
Yeah.
like, but because it's also like through this, you've been able to do other projects. So just tell us a bit about those, like what you've sort of built up and what you've done, like via all of this, like.
Yeah. Um, I mean, in terms of like projects and stuff that I've done, I mean, I'm working on my thesis for grad school right now, which is a big thing. Like, I kind of like, yes, I am the Dario Šarić girl, but I also do a lot with like player empowerment and with like kind of gender and like looking at sports critically, basically. I'm also doing a thesis on like afterlife and myth making in the NBA, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's
So,
something I definitely want to ask you about because obviously
yeah.
you've spoken a bit online about Drazin in that respect and other aspects.
Yes.
Like
Mhm.
what drew you to doing that as a thesis?
I just became obsessed with that topic. Like it's kind of something that just happens with me where like I just kind of get an idea and it doesn't leave. But yeah, it like basically what kind of led me to that topic is I kind of always have to tell the full story is that I did a study abroad to Italy when I was 21 in like my junior year of college, and then it was an art history program, so like I was just kind of learning all about like religion and like myth, and like a lot of it really is about grief because it's all about like the plague and stuff like that. Well, we were doing Renaissance stuff because we were in Venice. So it's really all just about like this kind of fear of like the unknown, like why are all of my friends and family dying? Like what is this plague situation? And like kind of looking at it through that lens, like really, I don't know, it just like set my brain up to think in a certain way. And then get this, I get home from Italy, and I find out that my cat has terminal cancer and is gonna
Oh
die in like two
no.
weeks. So, rest in peace, Iverson. Yes, he was named after Allen Iverson. But like that's crazy. So it kind of just like I started just thinking about grief and about like afterlife a lot, because of all of that, and it just kind of spiraled into this whole thing. And then so that was like summer 2023, and then January 2024, I watched this YouTube video where it was by Click Productions, who's like actually a mutual of mine now, which is awesome. But
Right.
he did this whole thing where like he simulated the entire history of the NBA, and he drafted Len Bias, and Len Bias didn't die. And that just opened this whole thing up. I was like,
Of
"Oh, I
course,
have to
yeah.
talk about this. I have to do stuff with this idea because it's crazy." Like this like idea of like rewriting a story out of grief, like simulation, digital reanimation stuff. It's just fascinating. So I've been like steeped in that for the past almost 2 years now.
And like, because yeah, because like what I love about this is like we got two neurodivergents talking here, although who discovered at very different points in their life. Because as I mentioned, I've got like over 20 years on left here.
Yeah.
I was over 40
Mhm.
I was in the spectrum. For you, like, because this is one of the things when we people like us have those special interests, we kind of go full on. Like might be in bursts, might be this, but like we really just take it to the nth degree, which for you creatively has been quite fascinating to see the stuff you've done. Because obviously with your YouTube and obviously got the Patreon as well, like it's sort of you're showing your full creative self here. Like, what made you think, okay, I'm going to go from it has been sort of a research based thing or a little short form thing to I'm just going to get out there, like
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of always been what I did. Like, if I had an idea, it's always like, well, I have a platform now. So, it's kind of not to say it's easier to kind of follow that dream, but it's like, I think just being locked in. And also, like, I'm in grad school, so basically I am paying the wonderful New York University $1 billion a year to just
yeah.
to just sit
American
in
college fees are not
their
funny.
classrooms. Yeah, so it's like whatever, but it's basically like I have to make the most out of this degree and I have to like do this thing. But there have been other projects that obviously weren't like this. Like my capstone for undergrad was about sexism and I forget how I phrased it. I think it was hypermasculinity and heteronormativity on NBA Twitter, which was really fun. And that was like my big thing before this. Like I was kind of doing a lot of like gender and fandom stuff, which I still do, but um I was like, let's just pivot into something crazy and esoteric and something that not a lot of people would want to be interviewed about. Which that's what I'm dealing with now is people don't want to talk to me for this. But it's just really cool to like have an idea and be like, I'm just gonna do this thing. And I do think that's I mean, apart from the Dario Šarić stuff, I think that's a little bit of why people follow me because I just do
No, no,
things.
no. Most people discover you through Dario and then find there's all these other fascinating reasons to keep following you.
Yeah, I think that's really what it is. Like people kind of there's like, oh, this is a Dario Šarić girl, but then they're like, oh wow, okay, they actually do like a bunch of crazy stuff. Or not even crazy stuff, but just stuff in general. So
Because like
yeah,
I think of you as about a year
mhm,
ago I first heard you were seeing stuff and it was to do with Dario, I think
yeah,
it was news. And it's kind of that's cool. There's this American young who's big into Dario now. They do all this cool stuff. It's
yeah,
that was sort of the mind blower for me was kind of going, okay, just great to have somebody who's a fan of stuff. And there's loads of people, and the people who just do that, that's brilliant. It's very fun. But like, yeah, like you were saying, like there's just the breadth of interests, and you're very open about them. I mean that in a good way. Like, it's like you're not shy in the most. Well, that's what you're like the introverted, the extroverted introvert type vibe of things.
mhm,
Like, it's like that you're willing to just discuss these and see. Well, let's see if it sticks, which is kind of refreshing, to be honest.
yeah. Um, yeah, definitely. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying it's refreshing. And you're so right about the outgoing introvert thing because like I can yap all day on the internet, but if you try to get me to leave my house to go out after like 9 p.m., I'm like, no, that's not happening. I'm going to sleep. Um, so I do think it's really, I mean, I've talked a lot about like to this like with people in real life that like I'm very like open on the internet and I share a lot and people seem to really get it, but in real life I'm pretty shy, which is crazy. Like it takes like if I go to like a networking thing or like even at the bar or whatever, like I won't talk to anyone unless my friend introduces me to somebody and I'm working on that. I really am, but it's like it's something that you kind of wouldn't expect from my online presence, I think.
Oh no, makes perfect sense. But again, like most people who
Yeah.
online wouldn't guess, well, until I started talking about it, like I deal with anxiety, and they go, "What?" It's like because I am very outwardly confident. Kind of, you can be
Yeah.
outwardly confident and still have the most paralyzing anxiety known to humanity. The two things can exist. So that's like so it's
Yeah.
one of the things that I find very relatable. So I'm just taking my notes here because I'm a total pro here and I'm reading everything off my phone. So actually, yeah, one of the things because you had me thinking about there was 2022. Remembering I was at Eurobasket and Croatia were there, and Dario was coming off that bad injury. And
Yes.
like as I put it, he looked like a guy who physically was there but mentally sort of spent. And is that sort of one of the things we've seen so often with Dario is that he's got this sort of dealing with
Mhm.
psychological trauma more of his injuries more than physical sometimes.
It's crazy. It's so wild. And like this is something that I so like I'm still locked in, right? I'm still locked in on like kind of the psychoanalysis stuff, but also with gaining a platform and also like kind of now Dario is like super aware that I do all of this. I kind of like, stay back from that kind of thing because again, like I try
No,
not to
makes
overstep
sense.
boundaries. And I don't want to like speculate about how he's feeling ever, but
No, I
yeah.
didn't mean it that way. Sorry, my
So
apologies. Like, yeah.
no, no, it's okay. No, 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 no. It's like I know exactly what you're saying. And I'm like, yeah, like there's something mentally that has been happening for years and years and years. And like no one like people are like, oh, he's washed, like he like that injury like fucked up his entire career. I'm like, you can't just say that. You can't say that kind of thing about people. Like, you know, it's like that's how I always felt about like Ben Simmons too, where it's like this guy's
Mm.
clearly going through something. Like, why are we just saying like, oh, he's washed, he can't shoot? Like, I don't like the way that people talk about athletes who clearly have something mental going on. Because it happens to all of us, in like different ways. But
You
um
forget these are also very young people who are
yes.
suddenly in
Oh yeah.
hyper
Uh-huh.
spotlight.
Yes, that's what I always say, especially about Dario, is like this guy was like pulled out of school at like what, 14 years old to like just go pro. Like that's insane. That's crazy. That must screw with like your development. Like imagine like being told from like literally the moment that you gain consciousness, like, oh, you are gonna be a professional basketball player. And I don't know if you saw the thing on my Patreon that was like the call with him that we did for
I
that
did, yeah, I did. I was
thing.
going to ask you about that next. So, what was that like? Because
It was
you also
crazy. Well, it
this
was
was the very,
wild.
yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I was gonna just say that like I kind of asked him like offhandedly, like, what do you think you'd be doing if not basketball? And he didn't know how to answer that question. And I
That's
could
very
tell. And I was
normal.
like, oh wow, okay, sport like should not have asked that. But it's kind of, that's kind of the thing that you get with like a lot of these guys is like you're trained. This is also something that I really want to like do research and like writing about is like you're trained to do this one specific thing for your entire life, and then you can't do it anymore, or you're not as good, or like like something happens, or even you just retire and this isn't your thing anymore. What do you do with your life? And I feel like people don't talk about that. And I think that kind of ACL injury was the start of that conversation with Dario, or at least like to me, just kind of thinking about it, like, is this guy okay? But yeah,
You know,
I
'cause
don't know if
it's an
anything
area
else.
that's really only the last couple of generations we've seen it come in.
Yeah.
You know, since I would say it's the players who'd say be 4 or 5 years younger than me. I've started seeing them retiring, and
Mhm.
they've actually been coming out. I say this players mean pretty much across sports, where
Yeah.
the pro teams are starting to realize you've got to prepare them for life after the sport.
Yeah.
And it's still far from universal. Like the example I always see here in Ireland is with rugby, where
Mhm.
because the sport only went pro in the mid 90s for the listeners who don't know rugby, and a lot of players coming through sort of those first couple of pro generations where they just were not being prepared for life once they stopped playing. And it's a sport like basketball where one injury it can be all over forever, out of nowhere. And those first sort of 10 years of players coming through, it was a bit of a what are we doing? And you've seen it sort of the last decade now where the teams have gotten their act together. We've got to make sure they're always focused on something that's not rugby so they can actually be able to do that if everything goes to pot. And it's inevitable when you just can't play anymore at the level required to be a pro. But I
Yeah.
suppose one thing, basketball, which is not basketball, because we were recording this on a Monday, and on
Yeah.
Sunday it went viral, and not to do with Dario, but it's to do with a bulk. And I'm sure knowing you saw this. Nikola Jokic, I heard him described on, I think it was Failure to Launch as he's cursed at being the greatest basketball player in the world, despite hating sport basketball. Now, he doesn't hate basketball, but he certainly likes horse racing more. Did you
Yeah.
see Nikola Jokic's celebration to that horse
I saw
race?
that.
Like,
It was so
because
silly.
well, we all joke about that he loves horse racing more, but for me, I kind of
Mhm.
love the way that he can be that open about it. Like, but this is my real love.
Yeah.
One is my job,
Mhm.
one's my real love. It's kind
Yeah.
of, to me, it's a
Mhm.
good thing we get to see that, right?
Yeah. I think it is a good thing. I think he should also be an example of like somebody who has like healthy interests outside of basketball. Because again, you see so many of these guys who just do not know what to do with themselves at all. And also like not to bring this to the W side, but if you look at the WNBA, all of the players there are like full people with interests outside of basketball. Because again, with the WNBA, you're not promised this like generational wealth, and it's not like this thing that it probably is becoming this thing where it's like you're pushed from a young age to like go to that league, but they all kind of know that they have other interests and they have to do something after basketball. And I that's really good, I think. And also just the fact that they have to go to 4 years of college, I think that's really good too. Um, and I think the men's side needs to take some notes, I
Yeah,
fear.
yeah, like
It's a mess over there.
yeah, no, like because you look at what the W is doing, like the players are almost universally focused on sort of making sure they
Uh-huh.
have other ways of making income. The part of that comes from well, the previous generation really most of those players
Yeah.
I'm talking about still active who want
Yeah.
to play all year round. So we're going doing their Europe stint, doing their China stint, then doing their W stint. And coming soon, by the way, in Ball in Europe, why WNBA Europe makes more sense than NBA Europe. Keep an eye out for that series
Yeah.
coming up soon, folks. Even self plug. It's like I could talk to you about 40 minutes about why WNBA Europe makes more sense. But anyway, I want to bring you to that bracelet. Or that was one of the things, and we're seeing it here. Is trust the process, trust the friendship.
Trust the
Sorry, trust
friendship.
the friendship, trust the friendship. But I remember you gave Dario the brace because there was a whole saga to you getting to see Dario because there was one game and then there was another. For those who don't know about it,
It
tell
was
them about the
such a
saga.
saga. Yeah. I mean, I could tell that story. But
Please go.
yeah, I mean, well, do you know about there's like a secret part of the saga that happened a whole year before
There was a
where I
whole
tried.
you didn't get in the
Yeah,
first
because
one. That's yeah, that's the reason why it's a saga because there was
yes.
the first
Uh-huh.
never didn't work, and then you got him the second time. So tell us about
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was living in Washington DC. I lived in DC for 4 years and I love it and I miss that city. I live in New York now, but yeah, so I was living in DC at the time and I there was like one game where like the Warriors were like coming to play versus the Wizards. And I was like, you know what? I want to make a friendship bracelet for Dario. Just because it was like, it's like a I think at that time it was like kind of like a trend where like people were just kind of making friendship bracelets all the time, which is cute and adorable. And I was like, okay, let's do it. Um, and I tried so hard at this game. I literally splurged on these tickets. I like went by myself. It was just like those times when you think you're gonna have a really good time and you just don't.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
that's how this game felt. Even like besides the whole friendship bracelet thing, I was like, everyone's paying so much money to see Steph Curry. It's like this weird environment where it's like a Wizards home game, but nobody really likes the Wizards. And like, it's like it just felt really weird. And I was like, okay, like this didn't happen, whatever. I literally walked like 3 miles home from Capital One Arena that night. because I was just like, I just need to walk this off. And that was like kind of a really profound like night of my life. I don't know. It was kind of this feeling of like I think that's honestly when I knew I was ready to leave DC, which
Hmm.
is crazy, but it just kind of was like, okay, whatever. But then I moved to New York and I was like, okay, we can make this happen at a Nets game. We
Yeah.
really could. With a little research and like, bringing a friend with me. My friend Chell has um like season tickets with the Nets. So, like just bringing a friend with me, doing this with a little bit more research and a little more time and just like really planning it out. And we made it happen and it was super nice. I think most of why I kind of did that was, well, number one, because I wanted to have matching friendship bracelets with my favorite NBA player, but also because when you're a fan of like a role player, like they don't have a lot of people in their corner, and most of the talk about them on the internet is slander. And I was like, I just want to do
Irish
something
Pat
nice.
Connaughton, just I'm all here for Irish
Uh-huh.
Pat. So
Yeah. It's just like I just kind of want to do something nice and like just, kind of reassure him like that he does have somebody rooting for him right now. So, I mean, I'm sure he's aware that he has fans, and of course, like back home, like in Croatia, like they love him. But I just kind of wanted to be like, here you go, here's a little thing that I made you. Okay, bye. Which is kind of exactly how it went. Like I made sure to like not, like I didn't want him to sign anything. All I wanted was like a little picture from my Twitter, and then I just left. Um, but I think more people should do that with their favorite players. It's so fun. But
no, like
yeah, I
it
mean, he
was
kept his
lovely.
bracelet.
Like
He has it. So I think that's super cool. I don't think we've ever seen him wearing it, and I didn't ask. But I do think it's really cool that he still has it.
now, one thing I'm going to ask about it, it was in the chat you had with him.
Mhm.
So he mentioned he would love to do quite a few years back playing in Europe. For you, would you like to see him back playing here,
Oh,
or would you
yes,
like to?
I hmm 5 billion%. Because I am always going on about how he plays at his best on the Croatian national team, which, like, again, like that's wherever he plays, it's not going to be the national team, because you only do that for like like
Windows, yeah.
it's not like a club, but yeah, I think he needs to go back. I like appreciate that he's doing like 10 years in the NBA because then again you get like free healthcare for life, and stuff like that. So I do hope he plays out this season with the Kings and then goes to Europe, and I want him to play in Greece because I'm Greek. I think that would be fun. Um I don't care
Like,
which team in Greece.
that's going to be the most controversy in the replies here. Like, but yeah, I've been to the Greek Derby. It is quite an occasion, putting it
Yeah.
mildly. And like,
Well,
it,
I know Panathinaikos really wants him, like really bad. Like they tried to get him last year, and I don't think they tried again this year, but all their fans were like, we should get him. Um, but that's honestly probably gonna get me super crucified on like Greek basketball Twitter that I like don't really have a team and I'll just stand like wherever he goes.
this is actually one of the things I wanted to ask you about because
Yeah.
if the way fandom has moved, and this is beyond Dario. Like, I think
Yes.
about my generation sort of where I started to see it, but it's really sort of in the couple that followed me. Like, you could call me Gen Y,
Mhm.
and one maybe somewhere around on the border, and like then the two we've had sort of since. It was moving from it being, you only had team fans really in sports
Yeah.
prior to this sort of mass TV age because the easiest thing was to follow a team.
Mhm.
Now, particularly with NBA, where there's only the five players in the court at one time, same with the W with basketball. Like, sort of, it's easy to become attached to a player, basically. And
Yeah.
I don't mean that in the most sense, but like you kind of going, well, for me, I always wanted to see. I wasn't a big Mavs fan. I always
Right.
wanted to see LeBron finally get over it because I was hating the narrative. But like for me, it was a case of I didn't really care what he's like. I'm technically a Celtics fan, but I mean, like, there are times where like last year like was very tough for
Yeah.
me because I'm a total Lucas stan,
Yeah.
so those finals are
Uh-huh.
tough for me. So, but like
Yeah.
whereas over here it's easier. You still like a player, and I say over here, I do mean Europe as a whole, which people hate when you homogenize Europe. It is one thing I can say is you don't really have that. Oh, it's just for the one player thing. It's like, no, we tend to root for
Yeah.
teams here just because it's the mentality factor, I think. But like,
Mhm.
have you seen that like more people, not just you, and not just as willing to go the extra mile in terms of researching you, they tend to follow players that bit more necessary than teams.
Yeah. It's definitely something that I've noticed. I think not to say I was part of the kind of generation of people on the internet that pioneered in this regard, because I'm really not. It's kind of been, I just kind of happened to be one of the more popular people to come out of it. But it's something I've seen a lot with like the player muse kind of thing where people,
Right.
just stand there one player and they don't care where that player goes. And it also, I mean, the thing that I always say is it's kind of like the ship of, well, I always say a basketball team is like the ship of Theseus because it's technically the same. It has the same name, but all of the players are different, like year to year, and like the coaching is different. And like, it's like, what are you really a fan of? Are you a fan of just the name or the city? If you've been a fan for all these years, like, what are you a fan of? Because in the people on the team, the people in the organization are always changing, and it's like it's kind of I this takes me back to actually when I was writing something when I was first getting into basketball about how like I was a big like indie head. Like I was really into all those like 2000s indie bands when I was a teenager, and I kind of put a basketball team like if somebody leaves a band, their sound changes entirely and they replace them with somebody else, right? Like whatever. And with a basketball team, like you're just supposed to kind of accept that it's the same thing even if your favorite player leaves. And it's like, well, why can't I just go follow like my favorite player wherever, Like why is that such blasphemy, I guess. I don't know. That was a lot of words, but I think you're kind of getting the point
No,
of
no, but
that.
it's because it is
Yeah,
a complex thing because like it's kind of
yeah,
weird for me. Like, so I think it's almost like sort of basketball because there's so few. It's easy to attachment because I think like with football, I've been going to the same terrible football team for 30 years. Like, I did
yeah,
a party called 30 Years of Pain for it in October,
mm,
like
yeah,
for following UCD soccer. Like this, and likewise, I've been for the Steelers forever in the
yeah,
NFL,
mm,
and the idea of like if one player left, like it's more if one player arrives and goes, "Oh no, I feel bad supporting because of how many terrible crimes we see sometimes with some players."
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
like with basketball, it's because yeah, like I said, I'm a nominal Celtics fan, but in
Mm,
reality, it's sort of like I my first thought is how was here doing. Like so, it could be Luca, it could be Wemby, like it was Giannis, like
Yeah.
Nikola I love because he is the most true to himself person. He does not pretend that he is that much more emotive than he actually is about basketball. Like he saves his
Yeah.
emotions for where he wants to feel them. And that's totally
Yeah.
cool with me. But they're the big ones. Like, for me, like there was, the whole way Maxi Kleber basically just adores playing with Luka Doncic. I always love that.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like, Dennis Schroeder's competitiveness again. He was never the guy in the NBA, but
Mhm.
like for the German national team, was anybody who plays for Germany in the last era, especially the Wagner brothers. Like Franz Wagner is a legit star, definitely
Yeah.
considered better in the NBA than Dennis ever was. Franz looks Dennis. Sorry, I know I'm rambling here, but yeah, it's
No,
like
it's
I think it
yeah.
varies a bit, doesn't it? Like, yeah,
Yeah. I think something that I kind of noticed with a lot of like Gen Z fans and like younger fans in particular is that like they're a fan of a team, but it's really the players on the team that matter. That's exactly how it is for me. Where I'm like technically I'm a Sixers fan, yeah, but I also like like if Dario signs somewhere, everybody from that fandom is like, no way, we got the Dario Šarić girl. Which that's what happened with the Kings just now. Or it can go the other way where Nuggets fans really don't like me, and they were not happy that I was there, and I wasn't happy to be there. And it was just kind of this like thing where it was like, we don't like each other, and I have to be here. And that was really funny. That was a year in time. And it was also really awesome doing that Zoom call with Dario during that because then everyone got really mad that he was like chill with me and that I wasn't some like creepy like stalker super fan person. Um, that was fun. But and that was kind of a ramble, but it's like kind of this thing where I think people are less like I feel like I used to get more hate for not always like being a Sixers fan, if that makes sense. Like I kind of
yeah.
just like the whole league. Because I think if you're like a super basketball sicko and you're just kind of like watching all different players all the time, and also if you're like me and you just are kind of sunshine and rainbows and just like want everything to be a good time all the time, you're just gonna end up liking a bunch of players from different teams and like liking what different teams have going on at the moment or whatever. And it's okay to float around. I think that's how I always put it. And I also kind of say that if something is making you really sad, like if your favorite team sucks or like they employ like an abuser or something like that, and you're just like really not feeling it, and you're like, this thing is making me sad, it's okay to go away from it. That's kind of, it's kind of like putting it really basic, but that's like, if you don't like what's happening, if something is making you sad, it is okay to go towards things that are making you happy. And again, like this sounds crazy because I'm like, why would like people are like, why wouldn't you just like support your favorite team all the time no matter what? I'm like, yeah, but also you're a person. So, especially if you're a sicko like me.
But it is one of the tough things that I've been like, covering sports as part of my job because I'm
Mhm.
also a tech journalist. I'm also do other stuff
Yeah.
like, for 20 years. And like, I've also been a sports fan since I was like, knee high, whatever.
Mhm.
And it's like you've got to like if you can't enjoy this, like, it is at the end of the day, it's only a game. Like
Yeah.
the reason I would go to certain matches is more because of the people I'm going with than the
Yeah.
people I'm watching quite often.
Mhm.
But also, like you got to like the silly stuff. Like I remember, I've forgotten what year it was. It would have like you'd have probably been in middle school for context of how long ago we're talking, which is still not that long, I know. But
Mhm.
there was this race to 50 wedgies. In, the guys who are now no dunks were then the starters were
Yeah.
doing, whereas basically the ball gets stuck in the net, and like they were calling it a wedgie. And it's like, and I remember when they finally hit the 50th of the season, everybody, and I don't just mean like people like you or me who are like, regular from the internet. I mean your Shaqs of this world, your, superstar former retired players
Yeah.
celebrating they've hit the 50th wedgie of the season in the
Yeah.
NBA. It was like, and they were all like congratulating no dunks because you like silly stuff sometimes. And I suppose that's one of the things you gotta remember with sports is like, yes, like, we're going to be used as a platform for very important stuff. And it's really great if someone you like does well or a team you like does well. But to me, the safety net of sports is that, well, if they don't do well, there's always next season, which isn't the same in life. Like.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely see that. I had a thought that just completely ran away from me.
I
Um,
hate when I do that to people. Sorry.
but no, it's okay. Because that whole story just got me like, I don't know. I like when everybody comes together and can put aside like rivalries and stuff like that. Because again, I don't believe that any players in the NBA truly like hate each other. I don't really believe that rivalries are real. I think it's all just kind of stuff that's like pushed by um like the NBA or, by like fans or whatever. I mean, you see a lot of that like with these player muse accounts that are just like kind of harmful,
Oh yeah.
where it's like it's just not authentic fandom. And I think a lot of the thing with the player muse accounts that is like what I guess what I take issue with is like kind of how they want to like be the only person that is a fan of this thing in this way. And they're like, I am the like whatever, like I am the like I'm trying to think of like a random player. I am the Kelly Oubre fan account and nobody else can be a fan of this guy. And it's like that's just not how we should be doing fandom, I don't think. I think it's kind of all about everybody should be liking things. I think it's okay to just float around and be a fan of the league in general and like whatever. And I think you should be a fan of whoever calls to you. Because again, I have never ever said I am the only Dario Šarić fan. Nobody else can be a fan of him. Because there have been a couple other fan accounts, and I'm like, yo, like let's be best friends right now.
Exactly.
Um,
And that's good
yeah,
fandom by that. You would like more people just to like the thing you like is generally
yes,
good fandom, like, you know?
yeah.
It's like, but like, yeah, no, it's like I know I'm keeping a lot of your time here, and you've got to
No,
go
it's
be
okay.
a young, excited college person. So whereas I'm going to be just watching Jet Lag with my partner after
I have
this, should be fun.
nothing going on
I don't know
today.
if you've ever
Yeah.
seen Jet Lag the game, folks. I'm plugging something that's completely unrelated to us, but Jet Lag the game is so much fun on the internet. It's on YouTube. It's fantastic. It's
Okay.
very nerd friendly. So I just want to ask you, I suppose, future is what I ask you. Both for, I'm going to go with the future for Lev second, the future for Dario first. So is it basically your hope is to get that year in and then we see him fly like a beautiful bird across Europe?
Well, I think I just want him to be on the Kings and not get waived halfway through the season and not go out sad. I just don't want him going out sad because that would make me sad and it'll also make him sad because we know him and he's affected emotionally by things a lot. So I hope he has a spectacular season. I don't think it's gonna happen, but again, what I always remind people is that when he was fantastic on the Warriors. He averaged like what, like 12 points per game, which for him, good. And then
Off
what
the
happened
bench
on
as
the
well, like.
Nuggets? Yes. And what happened on the Nuggets was he was caught in the Calvin Booth, Michael Malone beef, where Malone didn't want to play any of the players that Booth either drafted or like signed that season. Um, so that's what happened last year. And literally, again, if you watch that call that I did with Dario, he literally told me like he was like Malone doesn't trust me. Which was true. We learned that because of what came out after they fired him was that him and Booth were beefing. So again, I think Dario still has it in him. I think he has one more year being good in the NBA. I think he might even have more if he does great this year. Um, but yeah, no, I just want to see him do well. It makes me happy. It makes everyone happy. And I know a lot of people on NBA Twitter are going to be so glad when I'm no longer posting about the NBA when he goes to Europe, which
I
he
can
will,
assure
I
you,
know.
your league internet will love you
Yes.
because, like, we're very welcome. But also, so the weird thing before I answer the future, Lev,
Yes.
is
Mhm.
there's obviously different types of things where it's like it's more toxic here, it's less there, whatever. You're just weirdly weird. So
Mhm.
X is just a confusing mess because it's X/Twitter.
Yes. Mhm.
Instagram can be pretty bad.
Yeah.
YouTube, when a game is live, is by far and away the worst. But I also on my platform, I've got to manage my YouTube comments way more than TikTok. The
Yeah.
sanest one, and this is what I'm really getting to, because it's the last place I thought would have been the sanest place for basketball discussion, is EuroLeague Reddit.
Okay. Interesting.
Fans who from clubs who normally insult each other's everythings on all of
Mhm.
the platforms I mentioned have very real and nuanced debates about what's going on and be very understanding and acknowledge their own flaws, which we just don't have. Like it's mad to me that Reddit is the sanest place in
Yeah.
EuroLeague basketball. It's like it's not
Yeah.
normally where I say it. Like, and I've said it to like pals, like, yeah, lads, it's what our Reddit's normal. It's like what? They look at me kind of like I got two heads.
Mhm.
No, the future, what's next for you? Because I don't mean the big grand life plan, just to be clear. That'd
Yeah.
be horrible to do to anyone, even at my age, never mind at yours.
Yeah.
So, like, you've got this master's. Is it a 1 year when you're finishing off, or what's the plan?
So I'm gonna be done with this spring 2026, so I have one more year left. And then after that, I have to find a job, which that's a whole mess because the job market is so screwed over here. But I just want to be writing, I think. I think I just want to like do long form. People have told me to write books before, and I'm like, I can't make money doing that right now. Um, but I think definitely writing. I think doing more internet stuff. I mean, the YouTube channel But shout out to the Rusty Buckets people for getting me started with that. Um, I definitely want to lock in on YouTube. I don't know. I'm just kind of trying to find more ways to like kind of get off the ground with stuff because like I do have a lot of followers on things, but there's not a lot moving, if that makes sense. So I think, yeah, I just want to be writing forever.
Yeah, no, it's like, well, like I gotta say, I love all the content across it, TikTok and YouTube in particular. Although I mostly track you on the gram, I know, but like I sort of, if I'm killing time, it's like, oh yeah, Lev's got a bunch of TikToks I haven't seen yet. Gram, watch these. So for obviously, I want to make sure we plug the holy heck out of you. So
Oh yeah.
Lev, if people want to follow you on the internet, where are the best places across all the platforms?
I'm Lisco 2000 everywhere. You will find me Lisco underscore 2000 on Twitter, Instagram. There's oh yeah, and YouTube is Lisco underscore 2000, and then just Lisco 2000, no underscores TikTok. But everywhere else is gonna be Lisco underscore 2000. But if you just search Lisco 2000, you'll find me. I'm
Like
everywhere. I'm all over the goddamn world.
And like I said to you, oh, like you'll come for the Dario stuff, you will stay for everything else. It's fascinating.
Oh
I
yeah.
really enjoy. As a middle-aged bloke, I find it just doing stuff on this energy really, really entertaining. It's great. So as ever for following us, it's Ball in Europe is on all of them except for Instagram, where it's ballineurope.com, because for some reason either one of my predecessors registered it and forgot the password, or I think some rando registered it once. And anyway, it's ballineurope.com on Instagram. But listen, a huge thanks to Lev. If you haven't already, folks, do subscribe to them across all the channels. And purely because we're recording it this week, and I know it's a thing that matters to Lev. Also, a big shout out to the Shamrock Yoga, the Irish LGBTQ plus basketball club, who had three teams at Euro Games, taking a silver medal in the Flinter category. So huge success to them. And we will be back. Episode, which has already been recorded because time is weird, which will be talking about basketball and soul food. So stay tuned for that. Until next time, I will see you soon. Barely Hoops is a Ball in Your production. Our theme music is Deep Feelings, licensed from Artlist.